You got this, Colin.
I'm buying you. Go.
First time doing Ironman 70.3 Louisville. We knew there would be some hills and we knew it would be hot.
It was also the hottest swim I've ever done. I think the water temperature was 85 degrees and change, and that's basically bath water. So that was an experience to swim 1.2 miles in a hot tub.
You might as well just call it boiling. It's unfortunate that the water was so warm that we couldn't wear wetsuits, but the upside to that is it doesn't take very much time to get a swim skin on. So there's that, you gotta look at the positives. Pretty easy process getting our swim skins on before we went into the swim corral. Getting into the swim corral, I think that's where the first challenge of the day came. The swim corral was very narrow, and when you're trying to get thousands of athletes into the same corral, once we got up to the time frame that we wanted to for our swim, honestly, we couldn't even get to the time frame that we wanted because it was so congested and we couldn't continue to worm our way through all the athletes.
It was so compressed that when we jumped into the 86-degree water, it actually felt cool because it was like we were so damn close to everybody.
Sardines.
And it took probably, I don't know, a third of the way, half of the way down in the river before I actually started to feel the warmth. And it's not because the water was cool, it's because it was just the contrast of the sardine slow walk up and then got air and the water was cool and it was great.
As we were making our way to the very front of the swim corral, we walked over what appeared to be a timing mat, but we hadn't yet reached the dock to go into the river, and my thought was,
it was 20 steps.
Why did we just cross a timing mat? And then lo and behold, I got a notification that Colin had started his swim, but he was still standing right next to me. So that was unfortunate that the timing mat was a little up a ways before we even got to the water. But it's okay. It turned into actually a really good swim for me. I've been really happy with the swimming that I've been doing the past few months, and I think I was able to translate that into the open water swim today. There was a little bit of congestion that I came into. It was fun. About the buoy number 5 or so, I looked over and I saw Colin, so that's always a cool feeling. And what was even better, when I got out of the water, I had seen 36 minutes, and honestly, I couldn't really tell much of a current. And also, that put me, I believe, 13th in my age group, so that told me that my swim had improved, because I'm usually much further back in my age group when it comes to comparing swim times.
For me, I don't know anything about swimming. It's a miracle I can actually swim.
Oh, that's not true. Come on, give yourself some credit.
When I was a kid, I didn't take swim lessons. It wasn't until like a month ago that I finally got frustrated with my swimming, and it was plateaued, and it's been the same my entire triathlon career, these 5 years. So little boy signed up for some swim lessons, and I've had a few of them now, and I was kind of curious how it was going to go. We've deconstructed everything about my form because it was all trash, which I knew. I didn't know my time, obviously, until I jumped out, but it was 35 minutes. And even if there's a current, hey, that's cool, because I normally come in around 42 or 43 with my splashing around. And I mean, even in Chattanooga, when there's a current, 35 is me moving along. So very low bar for Colin in any kind of swimming. I was thrilled getting out of the water. That might have been my fastest swim ever. I've been shooting for a sub-5 race for a long time, and it was annoying when we walked over the timing mat, and I'm like, oh, the clock already started, and I need every minute I can get if I'm going to potentially do that. But I knew it wasn't going to happen this race with this heat, these hills. I can be optimistic, but it was probably not in the cards. And it was sort of a good thing that my clock was already running and I wasn't even in the water, because it any sort of hope, threw it out the window, didn't worry about it. And maybe it made me swim better because there was this one less thing to worry about. I'll worry about sub-5 in a couple months, but for today, it was really just to make sure the heat doesn't beat me. And I got out of the water and I felt okay. So 35 minutes, up and onto the bike.
I believe each transition, T1 and T2, I think they both came in around a third of a mile. And when you're just getting vertical from being horizontal for 40 minutes close to, the last thing you really want to do is run a third of a mile through transition before you even start your next leg. We all have to do the same transitions, but still at the same time, it just felt forever. When we're comparing it to Chattanooga, Chattanooga does have some rollers, but nothing compared to Louisville has. felt like we were either going up or we were going down. It was very rarely were we ever just on a straight path. I will say maybe the first 10 miles were decent, but other than that, it was up or down, and honestly, it felt like I couldn't really get a good momentum going, so I didn't hit the power numbers that I was really hoping for. When I was comparing my ride to the riders around me, I felt like I was riding really good. I was still saying a lot of on your left, which kind of motivates me to keep going. So that was a good feeling. And also I have to say here, the 56 miles in Louisville, I don't think I have ever gone through so much gearing. I was gearing up, gearing down, big ring, little ring. I was all over the place and I was constantly changing gears. So much so, I was on a slight uphill going into my small ring, and wouldn't you know it, I dropped my chain going up a hill. So I got off, I was able to get it on rather quickly, but the challenge was getting going again up a hill. I managed to do okay, so I was able to, I think, repass several of the people that did pass me. The bike is where I make my money. That is where I'm gonna pass the most people that I can throughout the 70.3 miles. That's where I really shine. I think I was 13th in my age group going into the bike. By the time I hit T2, I was in 5th in my age group. And it was just a matter of holding on for the run. But I will say, you know, T2 was, it just seemed to go on forever. And this grass that we had to run on is so thick, you know, pushing your bike and running with your cleats on, it's not an easy feat. So, but I am proud to say that in T1, I was the 4th fastest in my age group. T2, I was the 3rd fastest in my age group. So I gotta count the wins where they are, and I'm gonna count every single one of them.
It is. It is. Everybody's got the same transition, so we'll see you on the other side. Go get it, love.
If you go by age group rankings, apparently my bike was the best of the 3 today, which I don't think that's ever been the case. I'll take it. First 10 miles, they were awesome. That's where it's all flat, coming down River Road and going down that way. And the sun hadn't quite come out yet, and right as I made the turn to start the lollipop before we headed back into town, the sun came out. And right as the hills arrived, so did the heat. So the first 10 miles, I was having a great time, and the rest of that, it was a little bit more work. If I had to pay a royalty to every time I clicked a gear, I would be bankrupt by the time we got back, because it was just up and down and up and down and up and down. And like Caitlin was saying, there was never a point where you could just get into a groove until we got back to those final 10 miles coming back into town. And coming back, I had been baking in the sun for a couple, whatever it was, about 2 hours, whatever, maybe a little less than that. But coming back into town, I was not coming at the same speed, I don't think. There was a lot more fatigue, and I was a little disappointed in that. But like I said, given the heat, given the rollers, I was perfectly happy with that result. T2, I was not anticipating the friction on running the bike across this grass, and I was like, this is just one more thing. And I'm always excited to get to the run, because that's usually my best discipline. And I'm like, the grass is just the last thing I got to get past. I'm happy with the bike ride. Between the heat and the hills, I had a good day. Coming out of T2, Tiffany yelled I was in 15th in my age group, and I've never heard a number like that at any point. So I probably went like, oh wow, as I was running up to start. And I mean, usually the run is where I do best. And to hear you're in 15th and I'm like about to enter my best discipline, that's exciting.
You got this, Colin. I'm buying you. Go. Go. Go, go, go. Good old coach took a spill. So if your coach doesn't take a spill for you, then are they really giving full effort?
All right, Colin.
This is toasty today.
Tiffany said to tell you she's okay. Have a great run. Love you.
The sun is out. We got on that pavement out there, and I realized it wasn't going to be like my Chattanooga run or half marathons I've done on my own, where I ran my first sub 140 back in November. It wasn't going to be that. It wasn't going to be anything close to that. And I'm glad that I kind of had the approach of, it's so warm today, you have no basis for comparison. It was more of just a running by feel and not wanting to blow this thing up. And the first 7 or 8 miles, yes, there's some shade, and is that a glorious time. There was one point where there was some breeze, but it really was just out, sun, draining me. And when we got into the park, all of a sudden this deck of stratus clouds came over, and I have never been happier to see clouds in my life. And I'm a meteorologist. You think I would love clouds? I loved clouds today. I haven't looked at it in Strava, but I'm sure if I go and look at it, there's what looks like a negative split. And it's not because of anything I was doing, it was because it stopped being hot. And I think I probably gained at least 30 or 45 seconds a mile all the way the rest of the way back. I wish I could have run the whole race that way, but I mean, it was probably up to 90 at that point. Hottest 70.3 I've ever done. Different standard, you know, it's okay. It was a good run. That last mile is like mentally draining because it's one of these races where you don't see the finish line until you're at like mile 13.05. There's 2 turns and then you finally see it. So like, oh, mile 12, it just felt like it was taking forever. And I was looking at my watch, I was like, my pace is good. Where is this thing? And right after I finished, before I saw Tiffany and Katie, which is usually when all the waterworks start, I mean, the heat, it finally had like taken its toll on me. I was starting to feel a little bit dizzy and I realized I needed a lot of water and some food. So there were no tears because there was no capacity for tears because I needed some water and I needed some carbs and to sit down and get out of that. So, you know, if it means 90-degree races mean I don't cry versus all the other races where I do cry, bring on the tears. I don't care anymore. Haters gonna hate. I cry at the finish line. Didn't cry today for some reason. I think it's because I was just that freaking tired. I didn't have the energy for emotion at that point.
When Tiff told me that I was 6th in my age group, that really kind of sends you back a little bit, hearing that you're in a top 10 position. And that was a pretty cool moment, not gonna lie. I did know that biking was my best of the 3, and the run, I really wasn't quite sure how it was gonna go. My longest run since May was only 11 miles, so I had not run 13 miles since May. So it's kind of a question mark still. The body was feeling pretty good, but we still had to put in the work. Coming out of T2, was feeling pretty decent. I tried to take it easy as best I could and just kind of maintain. So my goal was not to slow down much, if anything. And I think I did a pretty good job of maintaining pretty decent splits throughout the 13.1 miles. You know, I had that, oh my gosh moment. Tiffany just told me where I was in the standings, and I'm not gonna know anything else until I hit the finish line because it is an out and back course, not very spectator friendly. That's unfortunate. Not to mean that it wasn't a good course. You know, you're just not gonna see your loved ones and your Sherpas and your family members out there more than once coming out of transition into transition finish line area. You know, that's really all there was. Lucky for me, we had some friends that live here in Louisville, and they were at about mile 3 or 4, kind of around the park area. And it lifted me so much to hear them call out my name and see the 3 of them there cheering me on. I can't tell you how much it really lifts your soul and boosts your spirits, and it really gets the legs turning over a little bit more.
Got it, Caitlin! Woohoo!
Run course, it's one long loop basically. So in terms of spectators, Sherpas, friends, you're only seeing everybody once. I never saw Caitlin, I only saw Tiffany and Katie one time. That said, it was super cool how many of y'all shouted out something about Team Saunders. I don't know, I mean, I don't keep track of it in my head, but I don't know how many times I've met so many people from the internet on the course. And it was super motivating. Like I'm just the 3rd guy here, and for all of y'all to yell my name, it was cool. And I always race in a Braves hat, so plenty of Braves fans too. I felt very supported in this race, even though it was only 1 lap. I wish we could have done it twice. Well, no, I don't wish we could have done it twice. I wish it was shorter and we could have done it twice. But for it being a 1-loop course, I felt very supported.
Not gonna lie, the last few miles were tough physically and mentally, but I think mostly mentally. There were several times where I thought about walking, but I had to tell myself, no, I'm not gonna walk. I'd rather be done quicker than to walk now. So the last few miles, that was pretty much just me in my head going back and forth about wanting to walk and me telling myself, no, be quiet, you're not walking. I always love the sign that says, shut up legs. And you know, I kind of played that in my head as well. I think Colin had mentioned it, mile 12, there's just 1 mile to go. And so we couldn't see the finish line until we were right up on it. And the last mile was a lot of kind of zigzagging through the downtown area. And I kept looking at my watch, I was like, oh my gosh, is this mile ever going to end? I was constantly looking at my watch. I think I looked at my watch every 0.2 of a mile. I was just like, I've never struggled so hard on the last mile. But I was proud of myself because I didn't allow myself to walk. Maybe once for a very minimal time, but I was like, no, keep going, get back going. You'd rather be done sooner than later, and I'm glad I did. I'll tell you why. I was 8th in my age group. 9th place was 6 seconds behind me. So that's why you just gotta keep on going. You just gotta keep pounding through, pushing through whatever it is you're going through, because you don't know how far back the next person is, and you know you always want to finish the best that you can. And I gotta say though, once I hit that red carpet, man, I just told the crowd, just give me everything you got. Come on, give me more, let's hear it, let's hear it. And that was probably the most fun part of the entire day. It's just so awesome because the crowd gave me back what I was asking for, and that was a pretty cool moment.
Very supportive finish line. That was super cool. The finish line is definitely the best part of the run.
Caitlin, you qualified for the Ironman 70.3 World Championship for 2026. Tell us about it.
We did just go through the roll downs for Nice, France 2026. With the new grade adjusted pacing and placing, I was, 68th, I think, ranked.
Caitlin Saunders. Caitlin Saunders.
They got to my name and I just let it go. It was a pretty cool feeling though to know that I did qualify. That would have been my 6th race to qualify. Yes, we've only raced 4. There was another time where I qualified and I declined the take. So that was a pretty cool moment. I think all in all, we got pretty lucky with the weather. I will say this is not a course to come and PR. And if you did PR this course, you deserve a separate medal because that is a very challenging course. I do have to give a shout out to all of the volunteers. I think we say this every time. Every city we race in, the volunteers are just the best, and they were just the best today. I mean, every aid station was fully stocked with everything that I personally needed. They had ice galore, and let me tell you, I used probably about 2 20-pound bags of ice all by myself. I just said, give it to me everywhere you can.
Yeah, the amount of ice I used today probably is more than in all my other races combined. It was every single aid station, just give me it, throw it everywhere. I'm happy with today. It's a hot swim in the hot tub, then lots of rollers, and then we all baked on the asphalt. And it was not a flat run course. There were plenty of hills in that park. My 70.3 PR is in Pancake Flat, Ohio, and I only missed that by about 5 minutes.
Impressive.
So year over year, it's hard to compare course to course, but flat 70.3 versus today, it wasn't until the final couple miles where I realized I probably wasn't going to be able to chase it down. I missed Worlds by 8 minutes. We'll see what happens in the rest of the season, but I have nothing to complain about today. It was a good day.
I am really proud of my performance. No, it wasn't a PR, but I still feel really good with the times that I put out there, and just that I was able to overcome some mental hurdles, and I knew I would get to them just with how my run has been the last couple months, how my legs have been feeling. Haven't really put in the run miles that I typically do. So all in all, I am really happy with this performance.